This footage is of post 9/11 America, shot in late 2001 with a Sony 8mm analog video camera. It was a Sony Handycam. And this is my hometown of Long Island, Maine. Long Island is about 3 miles long by 1 mile at its widest point, and it served as a naval base during World War II. It was actually a fuel depot for the U.S. Navy, and that building that you just saw were the old barracks. That breakwater was part of the Navy base, and it used to have a pier on it that connected to the island, and there were a lot of just huge piers that used to extend along the shoreline here, and this is all landfill. This road here is not a natural part of the island. It's all part of the Navy base, and all these buildings were part of the Navy base. When I returned from film school in July of 2001, this Handycam was just at my house for some reason. When I left for film school, we did not own a camera, and I was only able to shoot while I was at film school because they had a similar camera that they would give me to just kind of shoot footage with. And so when I returned, I had all of the tapes available to shoot on. And so I just continued shooting on the same tapes that I had already been shooting on when I was a film student. And so the beginning of this tape is Vancouver footage, whereas the tail end of this tape is this footage of me walking around the island, documenting all these old buildings. And I'm so glad I did, because this building we're looking at right now, it's no longer there. It doesn't exist anymore. I moved to New York on Labor Day weekend of '03, and a few years after I left, they ripped this building down. So I'm so glad I have a record of it. And I'd forgotten I shot this. And then during the pandemic, when I was rescuing all of my old footage as part of, the pandemic pastime, things that I meant to do a long time ago but didn't have time to do, I found this footage and I was so delighted to see it. Technically, it was a location scout for a short film I would make a few months later called Hero for a Day. Hero for a Day was definitely a post 9/11 movie. It was about the military and conspiracy in a small town, that sort of thing. And I definitely used the old naval base as my location. This building is the generator house. This created the electricity that served the naval base. And I know it's a location scout because I am narrating this video. I'm saying this is the left side or the right side as viewed from the street. This is the side that faces the ocean. And I'm literally giving a tour to nobody. I did not expect anybody to watch any of this footage. It's all for me. Even though I didn't know what story I was going to tell, I knew I wanted to make a movie there. I was fresh out of film school. I was ready to get to work, and I had all these locations at my disposal. And I wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. It took me several years to save up enough money to move to New York City. And I really wanted to invest that time in not only saving my money, but making a no-budget short film that I could use as a calling card when I got to town. But I also wanted to hone my video production practice as it concerns dealing with clients. So I also started my business as a videographer. I did some editing work for the town of Long Island, and I also did a few wedding videos just to get the hang of what it's like to create videos for other people with the idea that I'd be paid for it. And this is the beginning of that practice. What you're looking at is the start of the art life that I went on to live for 20 plus years and am still living to this day. What's even more incredible too is this is before the proliferation of high definition technology. Yes, high definition cameras existed, but for the absolute elite. They had previously used them on the Phantom Menace, and beyond that, they weren't known to be used in the industry at all. They were still very much an evolving technology, and not a lot of people had access to it. And so this 8mm camera footage was the standard. And yes, Mini DV had existed by that point, but it was still a really new technology, and not everyone had access to Mini DV camcorders. One of my friends, Brandon, had a Mini DV camcorder, and we would end up shooting Hero for a Day on his camera because it was more advanced. And this camera, as well as a second 8mm camera, would eventually be employed as B and C cameras for some of our action scenes. One of the feelings I have when I rewatch this old footage and I hear my voice is a sort of revisiting of the feelings I had in that era. keep in mind this is post 9/11 America. Jingoism was prominent in every facet of the media, and we were still trying to figure out how America was going to respond to the terrorist attacks. We hadn't yet gone into Afghanistan or Iraq. That would soon come. And the amount of anxiety I have just watching this, knowing how ignorant I was to what was to come with this country, it's all there, and it pains me. And some part of me is relieved that I was able to experience this level of peace and quiet so that I could get into this creative mode, into this creative lifestyle, into the art life, into this way of life before it all went downhill. But at the same time, I wish I had just some knowledge of what was to come over the next 25 years so that I could maybe play my cards a little bit different. And look at this. This is like proof that we were living in post 9/11 America, because I find in all these old tapes that were shot in 01 and 02, I was always filming planes overhead. I never used to do that, but I became obsessed with filming the planes. And it was a psychological result of post 9/11 America. Like, I could not stop filming planes after that. It took a long time for me to stop caring about the planes overhead. This is what we call down front, and it's essentially where the ferry lands to bring people to and from the mainland. And that's the ferry that was my school bus growing up. This ferry took 45 minutes to get to Portland. Every morning I would take it to go to middle school and high school, and then every afternoon it would take me back. And that commute does not include the bus as well. We also had to take a bus to get to and from the school. And it was a long, arduous trip. And the ferry coming in is the ferry that is bringing back students from their school day. So I got to be there to meet it, and we're going to meet some islanders very shortly here who have since grown up and started their families. And the deckhands putting out the walking plank. This is the plank that we used to board the ferry and to disembark. It's definitely not like the Staten Island ferry. It's a whole different animal. And these are some of the local islanders I knew when I was living there. I recognize so many of these faces. Many of them are still there too. There's Sonny. There's my cousins. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. Thanks, everybody.